Welcome back, Zane here with you, and thank you for joining me today. In this video, I want to talk about why young people are now leaving Australia, and the Australian dream, which once was to own your own home, is now out of reach. And there was actually an article in the Sydney Morning Herald just last week, which I picked up and kind of prompted me to, to talk about this point here today. But the headline of the article said that for young people, the great Australian dream now means leaving the country. And, I was very fortunate, perhaps you were too, to grow up in a time where the opportunity to own our own home, to raise a family, to look to the future with a degree of confidence, that we could perhaps one day own that home and retire with a degree of dignity, still plenty of years to live and enjoy life. That was a real opportunity. But certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, certainly since the great health crisis, what we're starting to see now is that there's a yawning, cavernous gap between the haves and the have-nots. People who weren't already in the housing market prior to 2020, they've really been left behind now, so much so that most people now who weren't in the housing market have actually been locked out. There's a big belief that they'll never get in because of the hyperinflationary landscape that we're in, where central banks and governments around the world are choosing to continually print money to demonetize the debt that exists in the system. Everything is so much more over leveraged now than it was in 2008 when the GFC took place. And so we're really at a crossroads, at a crisis point, and a lot of people, and it's not just young people, a lot of families now are starting to kind of question why it is that everything all of a sudden has gone up to the point where people are now really having to cut things out of their life, make serious compromises just to, hold on to their mortgages. Rents are soaring, so much going on that makes it really difficult for people to move forward and feel like, they've got a degree of freedom and hope for the future, and that they're going to be able to build a life for themselves. And so when it comes to young people, I believe that every young person should have the right to be able to get through schooling, perhaps even higher education, think about a career path, and to move forward with a degree of confidence into the future where they could one day hopefully own their own home, raise a family, and just live out the great Australian dream like we were able to do. And, in 1972, which is the year that I was born, what's really interesting is that the median Australian house price was only 3 to 4 times the median Australian wage. And so one family or a single family could function on just one income. Dad could go to work, mum could stay home, take care of the kids, take care of the house. And, people had a realistic prospect of not only buying their own home, but actually, owning it and paying it off in a reasonable period of time. And that's why now we're seeing people, the baby boomer generation, our parents, who have held on to their assets and their real estate for 30, 40, 50 years, now they're cashing in. Now they're, just through the fullness of time, the value of those assets have gone to a point now where, not because they had great businesses or they did anything miraculous in terms of wealth creation strategy, it's just that through the fullness of time, they've held on to those assets, and due to inflation, they've woken up now and they're, moderately wealthy, if not financially, at very least financially free. And so do young people have that opportunity today? That's really the question. And I've got 3 daughters in their 20s. Thankfully, my eldest has recently just bought her first home with her partner, and I'm very grateful that that's been able to happen. But, if I think about the opportunity and the prospect of young people realistically being able to own their own home, they're really going to have to rely on either the bank of mum and dad, some kind of inheritance, or they're going to have to figure out a way to earn a lot of money very, very quickly, and perhaps be in the top 5% when it comes to income earning. And maybe that's possible, but I'm sure you would agree that for most people that's not realistic. That's not going to happen. And so this is why young people are leaving. They're realizing that in a place like Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane or even Perth, the major cities of Australia, even Adelaide, what we're seeing now is that young people, when they sit down and try to figure out how long it's going to take them to just save a deposit to be able to enter the housing market, it's just, there's no hope. There was some stats that came out recently, just based on Sydney, but Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, not far behind when it comes to these stats. But it would take a young person coming out of university now around 20 years to save a deposit at today's prices to buy the average or median priced home in Sydney. 20 years just to save a deposit, and something like 15 years for an apartment. And so, that's just not realistic. People are not going to be able to do that. And by the time they get to that 15 or 20 years down the track, what are the prices of homes going to be at that point? And so, so this is a crossroads moment, I believe. There's so much more debt in the system now than there was in 2008 when we had the GFC. There's a big school of thought out there now that asset prices really cannot go down from here because of the amount of debt in the system, because there's been a concerted, coordinated push from central banks and governments around the world to just demonetize the debt by continuing to inflate currency, money print. And what that's done is create this wealth gap that just continues to go wider and wider and wider, where the rich are getting richer, and those, the poorer and the people who are working class, even middle class now, they're just losing touch and losing hope. And young people just can't see a way forward. So they're choosing to go to other countries, in particular Southeast Asia, where they can live for, up to 50% less than they can in Australia, comfortable lifestyle, not feel like they're a mouse on the wheel, constantly just getting by week to week, just trying to make ends meet. And perhaps for some of them who are able to generate income remotely online, they see that there's an opportunity for them to save on the cost of living, hopefully put some money away, and that at some point they will be able to afford their own home, which has always been the great Australian dream. So a little bit of a discussionary point that is very, very real right now. You may be concerned about this, maybe you're not. Most people who are in the housing market who don't have kids, there's nothing to worry about. They've benefited greatly from what's taken place over the last few years, but I'm sure you would agree that things aren't quite right. Things have changed very, very rapidly, and we should all be concerned about the next generation, because the future of this country depends on them. So my strategy and my solution that I'm recommending my daughters do, and I would recommend any young person consider, is to learn about decentralized stores of value, in particular Bitcoin. Learn about broken money, learn about the history of money, learn about what Bitcoin does. It's a savings technology. It beats inflation. It has done so since its inception in 2009. It's been the best performing asset by far out of any asset class in the world. There's so much information out there that you can tune into and really educate yourself on this. It's not just an investment, it's a savings technology. It's decentralized, it's portable, it enables you to be your own bank. You can take it with you wherever you go, unlike gold. And again, it's beating inflation. So it means that for every dollar that you put into Bitcoin as a savings, as time goes on, you're going to beat the price of inflation, so that your purchasing power is remaining intact, but not just intact, it's actually growing over time. And that really is something that everybody should be thinking about who's out of the housing market. I did some stats recently, and I did a video yesterday to explain how a home that my wife and I bought, an investment property a couple of years ago, had I put that money into Bitcoin rather than real estate, right now I'd be $2.7 million better off than I am. So for me, it's been a big wake-up call. I keep diving down the rabbit hole, and I want to keep sharing these videos with anybody who is happy to listen. So I want to thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a like, give it a subscribe. I want to build this community. I want to keep showing up, and the more I know that this message is resonating with you, the more I'm going to continue to do that. So thank you again for watching. This is Zane signing out. Hope you got some value from today's message. Have a great one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.